welcome to Puzzle Master. Today I'm going to be showing you the solution for the Hanayama twist puzzle, which means I'm going to show you the long twisting solution to separating those two pieces, and then the untwisting solution to putting it back into their original twist puzzle position. Now, the twist puzzle is a level 4 out of 6 on the Hanayama difficulty scale, and it is a level 8 out of 10 on the Puzzle Master difficulty scale. And if you haven't already got the twist puzzle for yourself, then you can pick it up from our website puzzlemaster.ca. And without further ado, let's crack on with that solution. Okay, so here we have a fully assembled twist puzzle. Now, before we get into the solution, first of all, we need to know how we are going to be holding this, or the orientation that you are going to be holding your puzzle in to follow along to. And for us, we are going to have the gap in the silver piece on the left hand side as we're holding it here, and the gap in the gold piece on the right hand side. As well, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be keeping the silver piece as still as we possibly can as we go around. Or not as still as we can, it is going to stay perfectly still the whole time, and we're going to be moving the gold piece around the silver piece. And as well, we need to know which way around we're going to hold the silver piece. And if you look very closely, you'll see that there is half of the twist engraving on the silver piece and half of the twist engraving on the gold piece. So there's TW on the silver piece, IST on the gold piece. We're going to be holding it with the gap in the silver piece on the left hand side, and the TW engraving in here. You might not be able to see it on camera, but you will be able to see it on your puzzle as you are following through. Now, once we've got that position, the first thing we're going to do is separate them into this position here. Now, these moves, there's a lot of them. It's quite a long routine. I haven't been able to find a quicker one. I think this is the only and fastest, simplest solution that there is, but it is a long-winded one. And some of the moves are, well, first of all, it's hard to remember all the moves as we're going around, but second of all, a lot of the moves are hard to describe, which will make more sense shortly. But what we're going to be doing is essentially describing the positions as we're going from one side to the other, because that'll be a little bit easier for you to follow along to, and for me to explain in a simple way. So what we're going to do, we've got the gaps in sort of their original positions here, the gap on the left with the silver piece, gap on the gold pieces on the right. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to slide up and around and point the gap on the gold piece so it's pointing up in this position here. From here, we can then twist around anti-clockwise to this position and then to this position, and we finish with the gap in the gold piece facing up, but we're now on the left hand side of the silver piece. And you'll notice to start with, I started off going the wrong way with the twist, purely because this is extremely hard to remember where all the pieces go, or in which direction all the twists start to happen. So there will be occasions where I get it wrong, purely because I can't remember it in full, but we will end up in sort of the right position. So as I've described it there, we started with the gap facing up on the right hand side, and now we've got the gap facing up on the left hand side. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the gap so instead of facing up, it's actually facing left. And to do that, we just go down into this position and back out to here. Now, as a general position for where we're going to go now, we're essentially going to go anti-clockwise around the silver piece twice. And the orientation of where the gap is on the gold piece is the only thing that changes as we twist around. So at the minute, the gap is on the left, and as we twist around, the gap is going to go and then the right position. The gap is going to now face down. So we're on the right hand side of the silver piece. The gap in the gold piece is facing down. We're going to continue going around and clockwise around the silver piece, and when we come back to that left hand side of the silver piece, the gap on the gold piece is facing down, just in here. We will carry on going around clockwise until the gap is now facing the gap of the silver piece. The gold gap is now facing the silver gap in there. And one more clockwise turn, we're going to end up with the gold piece facing, not there, facing the right hand side or facing the silver piece in here. In here it would make sense that you think you've solved it, but we haven't yet solved this puzzle. We're about halfway. What we need to do now is cross over from the left hand side straight through the middle to the right hand side. So the gap on the gold piece is now on the right, with the gold piece actually being on the right hand side of the silver piece. Now these moves get a little bit more complicated because we don't complete full sort of 180 degree turns around the silver piece. First of all, we're going to go up just 90 degrees to here, and we're going to twist it back so the gold piece gap is now facing down relative to the silver piece. Now, a bit more complicated, we're going to come around about 2/3 of the way around the silver piece. We're going to do a little swap, and we're going to come back, and when we come back the gap has gone from the bottom, is now on the top relative to the silver piece as we're looking at it here. And the good news is we've just got one more move to do. We're going anti-clockwise 180 degrees so the gaps are facing each other, and then in this position we can finally separate those two twist puzzle pieces. And for putting these two twist puzzle pieces back together, first thing we need to get it the right way around to reassemble it. There is only one way that actually works, but if you are looking at it, we want the same orientation that we had before. We're going to have the silver piece facing up with the TW engraving in this position here, and then when you line up the gold piece, it's the only way that actually comes on, but if you look at it from this angle where you've got the IST engraved in here, we're going to turn it in this direction and then slide them together in there. And now we need to reverse all the moves that we just did to get it apart to put it back into its original position. So there's 3 moves to sort of get it back to that crossover point, and then a few more moves after that to get it back to the original position. Same thing, we're not going to move the silver piece whatsoever. The gold piece is just going to be moving around the silver piece. So first of all, we've got the gap in the gold piece in the middle of the silver piece, and from here we're going to twist clockwise 180 degrees until the gap is facing up on the gold piece and we're on the right hand side of the silver piece. Now the two harder moves, because we don't fully go around 180 degrees, we twist about 2/3 of the way around the puzzle. We swap the sides, and then when we come back to this position, the gap in the gold piece should be facing down. Now that might take a few trial and error attempts to get back to this position, but you can do it. It's about 2/3 of the way around, a little bit of a twist, and then we come back. Then we're going to come up about 90 degrees into here, and then we're coming back, not in that way. We twist from here to here so that the gap has gone from the bottom, so it's now facing the right hand side. From here we can cross through the middle from the right hand side of the silver piece to the left hand side. And now we are going to reverse the 2 rotations around that we did to get this apart. So we're going anti-clockwise around the silver piece twice. So first of all, we're going from the gap on the inside of the silver piece around to the other side where it stays on the inside. So we're now facing the left with the gap in the gold piece. We're going to carry on twisting around anti-clockwise till we get to a point where the gold piece, the gap is facing down in this position here. That's one rotation done. We're then going to go again until we get the gold piece facing down on the right hand side in here. We continue turning around anti-clockwise. This time we're going to end up with the gap facing left on the gold piece in here. Then we do a very small move to get the gap piece on the gold piece. The gap on the gold piece facing up, and then we've just got 2 moves to do. We're going to go clockwise 180 degrees until the gold gap is facing up on the right hand side of the puzzle. And then the last move before we put it back together is just a little lift and twist. So we come up, twist it round so the gap is on the right hand side of the puzzle, and then we can reassemble the twist pieces just like that. So there it is. That is how you disassemble and then reassemble the twist puzzle. Now, as I said, as we were going through and as I made a few mistakes as it was happening, it is a tough one to describe, and then it is a tough one to do as well, which is why we've sort of taken the approach of trying to just stop at certain landmarks, if you like, so which generally were either the right hand side of the silver piece or the left hand side of the silver piece. The hard part for memorizing the routine to solving it is sort of how each puzzle twists in and then twists back as it's going around. Those different twists as you're going around vary dramatically and vary each time, and it's those parts that are hard to remember, and which is what led to me going the wrong way and having to come back at certain points. And if you find yourself doing exactly the same thing, because there are a few positions where you're on the right hand side or the left hand side, and most of the time there's a single track that you can take to the other side, but on I think 2 occasions there are places where you can sort of get on the wrong track as you're going around. And if you do find yourself doing that like I did, just come back to that original position or where you know you are in the right position and try and get from the wrong track onto the right track. And you should be able to solve it using that process from there. Now, hopefully this has helped you solve the Hanayama twist puzzle for yourself. If you want to pick up more puzzles just like the twist puzzle, then check out our website puzzlemaster.ca, where we have the biggest variety of puzzles on the internet in the world. Until next time, I will see you later.